Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Riding with Ryder, back for another week. Big Sky Breakdown, as well as SkylineSportsMT.com. Former Montana State player, coach, captain, all the above. Mike Ryder joins us each week here on the Big Sky Breakdown. Mikey, thanks for being here, man. How you doing?
Doing good. I'm on the road per usual here, traveling in beautiful Helena, and started my morning in Lincoln, Montana. So, yeah, got to see some elk first thing this morning, and on the road, man. It doesn't beat sales roll traveling to Montana in October. Nothing better.
Well, this last week, I thought Montana State beating Northern Colorado 55-17 is nothing crazy. I think that's like kind of where you expect it to be, given you have the number 3 team in the country playing a team that hasn't won a game in a year and a half. That said, I thought they did a whole bunch of interesting stuff. I mean, you're talking, they ran some trick plays. Ty McCullough throws a touchdown. They could have actually even scored more. Taco Dallar's touchdown, punt return touchdown doesn't get called back. I thought this last week they did a great job of putting some stuff that they haven't put on film yet on film to try to make Idaho think about it. How much of that is a factor when you're talking about game planning and sort of like the chess match that leads up to a game?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think, you have a certain idea and you know where you're going to be as far as like a base offense, base defense. But as things take shape and injuries happen and, maybe guys step up in a role that you thought maybe they weren't going to be, you start finding ways to get them involved in the game. Naturally, there's these small wrinkles. We've seen that with the Cats. And then part of it, you're told, right? Look, we want to have some of these things in our back pocket once we get deep into conference play. And so you know that you don't need to maybe pull that out of the playbook right away, but you know it's in there. And then I think there's some things that you do that become smoke and mirrors. You do them because you're like, look, we have the capability. It kind of fits maybe the what we have this week. We may not use it again, but we know it's gonna lead to the other team watching film and having to adjust and spend time on it in practice. And coaches always talk about that. Are we actually spending time in practice on things that are meaningful, or are we, as coaches call it, chasing ghosts?
Now that Montana State, now they've done all this stuff, but they also haven't done much of the quarterback run game. Do you feel like teams are still preparing for it, though? Like, do you think that's still something teams are and should be spending time on?
Yeah, I think at this point, if I'm a defense, I have to plan for what I've seen the last 5 weeks. And the quarterback run game it hasn't been there. And if I'm Montana State, they can't afford to go back to that well too often, because this season looks drastically different without number 4 under center. So will they get him involved? Probably here or there. But you've got to hedge your bets. You've got to spend your time on the offense that's there and what you've seen on film and, some general preparation probably in the quarterback run game. But if I'm going into a game like this weekend, if I'm Idaho, I don't know that I plan or game plan a whole lot for the quarterback run game because we haven't seen it. And we know what's behind Tommy Malott. And you've got guys on staff that if you do get to a point where the quarterback run game is beating you, Kojak has hired his staff for a reason. If they get to halftime, they're getting beat on it. You've got to make some halftime adjustments. And so maybe you have those in your back pocket, but you don't base your game plan around it because you haven't seen it through 6 games.
Anything else that were main takeaways that you saw last week that you thought was new or different or improved or needs improvement or anything like that?
I think it was good to see the special teams be a factor. Interesting, like through a couple quarters, 215 yards just based on field position. There wasn't a lot of all-purpose yards for the offense. So I think encouraged by the special teams and Taco getting quite a few touches there. I think defensively, this is their first test, in my opinion, against Idaho. I know that opener against New Mexico, that's always interesting. Everybody's kind of feeling each other out. And so you can probably count that game. But I am still interested to see how they handle a more physical offensive line, especially at the second level in the linebackers who are a little bit undersized. And then what does the secondary do when tested downfield? Because Kochak will test them, and they're going to throw some balls downfield. And I think the secondary is a little bit beat up. They do get Drew Pallador back, which would be interesting. But, boy, I've been in that position where you come back even from a game off, and it doesn't feel the same. And so how fast can you get up to speed, Colter? You can't just miss games and call it, nothing. How fast can he step into it? So I think I want to see a dominant performance by the defense. I think we've seen it in the trenches on the offensive line, but defensively, I want to see it on that side of the ball with some good pressure, stopping the run, getting some timely turnovers, and getting off the field on third downs.
Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective is partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more.
When it comes to the battle of the clock, I think it's funny because Montana State runs the ball so well, so people think of them as a ball control team. They certainly win the time of possession, but they actually don't grind it down like Idaho does. Idaho runs Idaho still huddles. They're looking like, late 90s, early 2000s Montana high school football teams with the way that they still huddle and they waste the clock all the way down to the, 2 seconds left on the play clock. That is absolutely the defined identity of what Jason Eck wants his offense to be. So I'm so interested to see how that part goes because Idaho wants this thing to be low scoring. Montana State, even though they run the ball so well, they like to get out and go. They're trying to score 40 a game. So what do you think of that dynamic? Just the fact that probably Idaho's best chance against Montana State's run game and their offense is to just keep them off the field and milk the clock. So what do you think of just the clock battle?
Yeah. I think you're spot on. You got to shorten the game, and you've got to limit the possession that number 4's got on for the Bobcat offense. So how do they do that? It's by ball control and utilizing the play clock and shot downfield. And they're also forced a little bit to do that given their quarterback situation. They don't have their starter who was hurt against Wyoming, I believe, broke his collarbone. And so I think the possessions become magnified. And so, turnovers and, turnovers on downs maybe and 3 and outs, those things all of a sudden get magnified because the amount of times you touch the ball is just less. You've got to be more in football. And we saw it last year in Moscow. That's not what happened. They couldn't sustain a drive. They were 3 and out for I think every single possession in the first half. And that's just a recipe to beat a Montana State team is to keep the offense off the field, the run game, balled up, and forcing them to be one-dimensional. And that's where Montana State's going to struggle. So possessions are going to be, really highly valued, and they got to score points.
I'm so interested to see how it looks different compared to a year ago, because last year Montana State was so, for lack of a better word, they were so addicted to the zone read. Like they couldn't operate their offense without running zone read and RPO principles. Now they're not as addicted to it, which I think has helped them diversify their offense. Certainly, so much more outside zone, so much more, just give the ball to your running backs, get out of the way. Idaho last year, though, they screwed with Tommy Lott big time, because all the pre-snap reads they were giving him, the shifts, the slants, he was forced to make the wrong read. He threw that back shoulder fade when he's not supposed to multiple times. He kept it and got smeared a couple times. He gave it and they got tackled for loss. They were just a mess last year on offense. And I know that Taylor Housewright and the offensive staff took all sorts of heat. People were saying bad play calling. Well, when you run a read-based offense, a lot of times it's not bad play calling. The concepts are just getting messed up by what the other team is doing. That's exactly what I've been doing to them. They're not so addicted to that now, though. So I don't know what Idaho is going to throw at them. I expect Montana State to look just way more fluid, just because they don't have there's nothing that's going to be like this ultimate deterrent like what Idaho did a year ago.
Yeah. You know me, Colter, I'm a defensive guy, so nobody can ever be like, wow, such good defensive play. It's like, man, those are bad play calls, which is so funny, right? Like, no, sometimes it's good. Like, defenses from time to time, they actually force your hand on offense. Right. And that's exactly what they did last year. And so that's the goal of a defense, is to try and force the hand of the offense and to make an offense react, whether that's stunting, whether that's blitzing, whether that's actually fixing up coverages, late rotation. It's putting a defense in the proactive and the offense in the reactive. And as football fans, people that love offense, they don't like to see that so much. So, look, they did that to Tommy last year. Well, now, given that the zone read, like you mentioned, is not as much of a staple, what are they now going to go at? They're going to try and confuse the offensive line, right? How do you, be physical, but also, show them one picture pre-snap, and then maybe you're slant to doing different things and messing up the zone run scheme, which the Bobcat offensive line is so proficient at. So that's part of the chess game. It'll be interesting to see what shakes out on Saturday, but it'll be a heavyweight fight. I am expecting a really good football game in Bozeman on Saturday.
I am too. Last question for you. I know you spent that 1 year working with Jason Eck there at Montana State. So what have you thought of just sort of his rise to the coaching ranks and what he's been able to build here in year 3 at Idaho?
Yeah, I'll say this. First and foremost, Eck he's a good human being. He's a good dad. He's a really good husband. He's a really good football coach. He recruits unbelievably well because he's so good at building relationships. His secret is no success, and I don't wish this on the Idaho program, but he probably won't be around for that long because he really is. He's super dynamic, and he's a really good play caller. He does a good job of being a head coach, but he always has this thumbprint plan. I can see that. Some of the creativity and the focus on the run. Some of the element plays that you see, like the shot plays off of turnovers, he just has some of that creativity, and he is an offensive coordinator at heart, an offensive line coach, and you can see his thumbprint on the program. But it's fun to see his success. He's an awesome guy. I just hope that his team struggles on Saturday.
Riding with Ryder here on the Raceline Breakdown and SkylineSportsMT.com YouTube channel. Mike Ryder joins us once a week. Will you be in Bozeman on Saturday?
Oh, man, I'm going to be watching with a couple former teammates. So Dustin O'Connell, Blake Beckstead, guys I played with in the 2010. We get together once a year, and this is our year to come together, and we're going to do some fishing on Friday and Saturday and go enjoy the game. So we're pretty fired up.
Great. I'll be sure to come find you guys. But in the meantime, thanks for doing it. Have a great weekend. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, Colter.
So will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again? Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.